I don't know if you can notice this, but when I do, can you see that? I had Bell's palsy, and it was a few years ago. It never really recovered. In fact, it could have been something else. It was never diagnosed. Could have been Ramsay Hunt's disease or whatever. The reason I'm telling you this is because I was 230 pounds, completely stressed out, constantly in pain. I would walk up and down the stairs going, ow, 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 ow. And my husband was like, oh, Stephanie's coming. I was miserable emotionally, physically, spiritually. I had started a business in 2013, and at this time it was 2017. And I mean, literally, my business was like I was going to have a heart attack. But I loved it. I mean, I love my business. It was all consuming. And I became in 2017 a vegan because eating meat was my food of choice. And that's, I think, a lot of the reason how I got fat was the fact that I believe I was an old white Southern man in my past life because I liked those old steakhouses, the kind that, you get these like big martinis or like bourbon on the rocks. And I would order my ribeye. I said, I want the heart. Boom, 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 beating when it comes to my plate. Mac and cheese, baked potato, dessert, bottle of Cabernet or two. Ultimately, I knew I needed to lose weight and I knew I wasn't going to be able to do it if I was still had this craving for meat. In order to change, I had to change my mindset. If I wanted to lose weight, if I wanted to become healthy, I needed to change this first. The reason I'm telling you this is because I really had wanted to do a YouTube channel. In fact, I started it. It's called Vegan-ish. And it's just sort of my journey from being 230 pounds to my set weight now, which is 168.5, and my and then inviting you on the journey to come with me as I lose like the last 25 pounds. I was also starting a garden this year, and so there was a lot of things that I wanted to share. Also, I started a business from scratch, just me, myself, and I. It's 100% woman owned. I started in my basement on $13,000, and now we operate in 20 states, and we have two physical offices in two different states. And, I thought that my journey through that from 2013 to now, 2025, I mean, it's been a pretty interesting road. And I thought, well, maybe I'll start a YouTube channel on that, or I'll incorporate that into my veganish lifestyle. So these are all things I wanted to talk about last year when I thought about starting a YouTube channel. But then we got Donald Trump, and now we're in this horror flick. And I am compelled, like it's like a scratch that needs to be itched. It is that bad. Uh, I would wake up in the morning thinking about starting a YouTube channel about this. I would go to bed at night thinking about starting a YouTube channel. I would work all day, and in the middle of my day job, I would think about this stupid channel. I didn't want to do it. I did not want to do it because I didn't want to alienate my family. I didn't want to alienate my clients. But I got to the point where, like, I didn't care. I didn't care. It just became overwhelming for me. And what I've learned over the years is that when there's a voice inside you telling you to do something and you cannot shake it, it often means you need to do it. I subscribe to a higher power. I do not subscribe to organized religion. That's just me. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I mean, I probably will in another video, but in this video, I'm not going to say that. But like anything else, for me, it's just I connect to something higher than me, and for lack of a better word, I call that thing God. So I believe that is God's voice telling me to do something, and I don't know always what's going to come of it or how it's going to turn out, but I knew that I had to do it. So I'm telling you this because recently in one of my other videos, I mentioned I had set some appointments with people that I think are really strong and impressive Democratic thought leaders. And one of them made a comment to me about maybe just incorporating them all into one channel. Also, he mentioned, because he knew me, I used to do stand-up comedy. And one of the things I'd love to do is make all of this kind of humorous and funny. But the thing about comedy is tragedy plus time equals funny. That time gives you an opportunity for self-reflection. And, in that self-reflection, you're able to interject humor. There just hasn't been enough time. I mean, there's just not enough time. It is just a complete freaking dumpster fire every single day. So it is hard to find humor in it, but that is my goal. So again, why am I telling you this? Because, well, I'm maybe a little bit of feedback, but also maybe just letting you know that I'm shifting directions on what I'm going to be doing here. When I started to think about it, what I realized is when people say, oh, let's not talk politics, like literally everything is politics, everything's political because everything is legislated or has some sort of governance over it, right? So, like, for example, you're driving down your street and you got a stop sign. That was legislatively somebody decided to put a stop sign there. That wasn't just random, right? The air that we breathe is regulated. The food that we eat, everything. There's literally not a thing that we touch or look at that has not been touched by or oversaw by some sort of legislation or regulation. So everything is political. And now, more than ever, what's happening politically is affecting all of our health, like mental health. It is going to affect our food. Last time this guy was in the office, we had a pandemic that killed 1 million people. And it didn't need to be that way. It became more of a mental health issue. And people just were going to take a side. And that side killed a lot of people. I mean, with the healthcare system the way that it is, and the food supply, how it's going as they're just cutting regulations, it's going to be more and more important that we're aware of what we're eating. And also business, like my business is seriously affected by the legislation that is being set forth. And so going into that in more detail and where I see opportunity and where I'm taking my business to grow it and to build financial security for me and my family, I think is interesting. But a lot of it is predicated on the fact that the legislation that's coming down is going to crush a lot of small businesses. A lot of people are going to see themselves out of a job because of AI and technology. So I think these are important things to talk about. And I think because of where we are politically, it's more timely. And I don't know that separating them is the answer. I think bringing them together is the answer. I also think that, and this one's important, since 2020, I'll be honest, I've been kind of isolated. We moved to our lake house, and I have a few friends here that are actually Democrats in this very, very small, red, rural community that's very, Trump. But the reality is that I am ready to build a tribe. I want to build a tribe. I want to be with people who have the same moral foundation and the same ideology as I do. And I didn't used to be like that. I used to be okay with, the difference of opinions, but it's not a difference of opinion anymore. It's like you either support a white nationalist movement. I'm not saying that, that person's a white nationalist, but I'm saying you're supporting that movement. That is a movement of hate and trying to destroy the Constitution, trying to remove our freedoms, and trying to constrain us in, poverty and debt and poor health. And there's a lot of things that I see happening that I just don't think from a business standpoint, from a moral standpoint, from a relationship standpoint, that until people are willing to see what's going on, that there's any place for them in the world that I'm creating. Because when you need to be healthy, when you want to be healthy, when you want to build a business, when you want to have good relationships with your significant other, surrounding yourself with the right people is key. It is so important because you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Let me say that again if you don't know that. You are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if I, as a person who has limited time, spends 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 week, 1 day, 1 year with people who absolutely are reprehensible to me in their value system, then that affects me. And I have to protect that because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm 55 years old. My runway is getting a lot shorter. I don't have as much time to accomplish the things in my life that I want to accomplish. And I used to do a lot of good in the world. I was part of charities. I was very philanthropic. And quite honestly, I haven't been able to be there yet because I've been focused on my health and making sure that I don't gain that weight back. I'm still, 20 pounds away from my weight. And anybody who's gained and lost weight knows that. But it's very easy to go back there. So I'm really focused on trying to get to my goal and meditate and stay mentally sound because we are in crazy, crazy times and we are going to need our mental agility more than ever. And we're going to need good people around us and people who lift us up and make us feel good and love us. And I just don't see a scenario where that's going to happen with people who support Trump and his lawlessness and his cruelty. And also to support that, to be in a mindset to support that, these people have been indoctrinated. This is a messaging that's been happening for over 50 years, but probably since the beginning of our country. It is not we the people, it is we the corporations. And we are just profit and loss to them. And we have always had parties in the government who support corporations over people. But the Republican Party, and MAGA especially, has been more indoctrinated and more ingrained in the philosophy and value system of what they are telling them and voting against their own best interest not because they love necessarily Donald Trump, which so many of them do, but not all of them, but because they hate Democrats more. And that's the key thing that I want everybody to remember. When they interview these people and they give them all the policies on one side and say, what do you think about these policies? And they don't tell them that they're Democratic policies. And I don't know the exact number, but it's very high. It's like 70, 80% love these policies. They want these policies. But when they tell them, oh, these are Democratic policies, that number goes down significantly. The reality is that when they did interviews on people who didn't particularly like Donald Trump or didn't particularly like the MAGA movement, and they asked them why they voted for Trump, they said, well, I know who he is, but that's still better than who the Democrats are. So people have been manipulated to hate Democrats, not because of policies, but because of things that are like mystical, right? Because they drink the blood of babies or they're in some sort of satanic cabal or whatever kind of craziness that they find on the internet. And that is definitely not safe for me personally to be around people who think that way about me, right? And also, at the end of the day, we have to just protect ourselves. We have to protect our mind, our body, our soul, our spirit. And I have an olive branch extended to every single person who's in MAGA. But it is not an olive branch to debate policies. It is not an olive branch to discuss their side versus my side. That ship has sailed. I know who they are. And I hope through these videos, they know who I am. The reality of the situation today is that when it is more painful for them to be MAGA, when it becomes more difficult to live the life and the lie that they're living, then they will change. And this is something that I learned from a very famous person who is in the self-help space. They said, when you want to make a change, and I will use weight, for example, because that was my issue, don't think about what it's going to be like when you lose the weight. Think about what happens if you don't change. You're talking about a situation where I was already in pain. I was already exhausted. I already could not do the functions of my job and build my business at the weight that I was at. So I sat with it because that's what the book said to do. Sit with it. Feel it. Feel what it looks like to be that person if you do not change. And that's where I think we have to meet MAGA. They're going to have to realize if they don't change, if they don't make a shift at how they see things, what does their life look like? But I think until we're ready as a community of people who want to hold people accountable, say, listen, until you're ready, MAGA, to see what's really happening and to stop dabbling in or going down the crazy train of conspiracy theories until you're really seeing how this is a mind manipulation to hate a whole group of people so you will vote a certain way to protect corporations. It's not even about Republican and Democrat. It's simply about billionaires and corporations trying to control us. Until you're willing to even have that dialogue, I've got to protect myself, my family, my mind, and my soul. And I think that if people love you, they'll respect that. And when they're ready, they know that you're there. That's what I think we should do. And I'd love to get your feedback. I would like to know actually, are you more interested in hearing about business, health, menopause, or relationships, or just more political critical thinking? I'm not an expert on any of them. I just am going to talk about what I did for me personally. But all of it, at the end of the day, baby steps. They're all baby steps. And being really comfortable being uncomfortable as you learn something new. Kind of like these videos. But if you liked what you heard or you think that this could help somebody else, please share, please like and subscribe. We're almost at 3,000, which I mean, it sounds crazy because it's such a small number. But for me, I'm like, that's huge. Yay. But I'd love to get to 5,000. And I hope that these videos are getting better. I'm really working on it. I'm really trying. So I love talking to you guys. And I've been getting some fun comments. So I appreciate that. But we'll see you in the next one. Bye.